And welcome to Mike Ferry TV. It is the week of March 13th. 45 years ago, and I remember this plain as day, I received a package. It was actually a letter, and it was sent Postal Express at that time. I can't remember what the exact terminology was, but it had lots of stamps on it coming from the state of Arizona. And the letter was from a person that had attended one of the events that I had done. I had been hired by a promoter, and there was a big audience, 600-700 people. And it was a very weird setup, and I want to explain this to you. 600 chairs in this ballroom. Picture this, a stage about this high that was about this big, and almost a ladder climbing up to it. Well, the person introducing me that hired me to speak introduced me to the stage. He climbed down the stairs. I climbed up this side. I started to speak, and quite honestly, I thought for sure I was going to fall off and break my neck. So I climbed back down the stairs, and which I will often do. I walk out into the audience, 600 people, to make my presentation for a couple of hours. I don't know if I was good or bad that day, but I got a tremendous amount of response. I got a lot of applause from the audience. In those days, when I did a seminar, I would offer to sell people a set of cassette tapes. And we sold an enormous amount of cassettes after my talk. I flew back. I was excited about the opportunity the man had presented. I did my job. I got paid my fee. We sold cassettes. The audience applauded. We were all happy. You've all been in a situation where you've done your job and you've got a response and you're happy with that response. Well, about a week later, I get a very, very nasty 3-page, single-spaced, little tiny print letter from a man in the audience telling me how wrong I was, how bad I was, how terrible I was, that I should be not allowed to speak, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't know what to do, so I took the letter and I sent it to the man that hired me to speak and said, one of your 600 people is very angry, very upset. If you would like me to write a letter of apology to that person, I'll do it. If you want me to reimburse you a portion of the fee you've paid, I'll do it. If you want me to reimburse that man the fee he paid, $150 to be there, I'll do it. What do you want me to do? A week later, I get an envelope in the mail, and I rip it open, and I take it and turn it up to get the letter out, and confetti pours out. Confetti with a letter. Dear Mike, the confetti is what I did with the letter the man sent you. I shredded it. And then he said something which somebody will be offended by. Don't get mad. In the letter it said, Mike, if the good Lord Jesus showed up with his long hair and his beard, wearing his white robes and his sandals, somebody would be mad about his appearance. I hired you to do a job. You did your job. That's it. Let's move forward. Well, I held on to that letter for a long time. One, because I wasn't sure of the analogy, quite honestly, but I appreciated the fact that if you do your job, you will be criticized, you will be complained about, and somebody will not like what you do. Because if you're a good, strong listing agent, because this is part one of a 3-part series on listing property I'm doing. If you're a good, strong listing agent, not everybody's going to be applauding for you. In fact, just the opposite is going to happen. People are actually going to be angry at you because the person, as you know, that lists the 2 to 3 to 5 homes a month controls the inventory. And when somebody controls the inventory, they control their business, their life, and all the expectations of sellers. And of course, they control their future. People aren't going to be happy with you as you take this 3-part series and commit or recommit to becoming a great listing agent. So we're going to start today, part 1 of our series, with this question. Okay, what are the advantages to you spending the next 3 to 5 years? 3 to 5 years, Mike, for goodness sakes, that's a long time. Wait a minute. Are you planning on being alive? Are you planning on being in real estate? I think the answer is yes. What are the advantages spending the next 3 to 5 years of learning to become a top producer and a great listing agent who lists a minimum of 50 homes a year, 1 a week? What are the advantages to you? So what I want to do today is I want to go through a couple of these simple little advantages. It's not a big list from any standpoint, but I think you'll find that if you pay attention to this simple list, it'll work in your favor. Here's what I wrote down. Advantage 1 of spending the next 3 to 5 years of becoming a great listing agent. You'll build a more predictable, duplicatable, and consistent income for yourself. All right? Now think about that. If I want to have a 20, 30, 50, 75 deal a year business, I have to build some predictability into it. All right? In your marketplace, what percentage of the listings normally sell? All right? Think about that. You can figure that out by going to your market stats. All right? If you know that 75% of your listings sell and you take 50 listings a year, 75% of that is what? 37. You can predict based on the number of listings you take what your income is going to be. Duplicatable. Once you learn to list property, which you can learn to do, then you can duplicate that activity time and time again with other potential sellers. Consistent income. You and I both know there's a lot of satisfaction working with buyers, but it's very inconsistent. Why? Because the amount of time you invest with the average buyer. So the first advantage of spending the next 3 to 5 years working, learning to become a top producer and a great listing agent is the obvious ability to predict, duplicate, and create a consistent income. Second advantage, okay? You're going to have to develop, and you will develop, the listing skills that will last you a lifetime. Let's be honest. If I'm showing property to a buyer, and I've pre-qualified the buyer properly, which I know you do, and the lender has worked with your potential buyer, which I know you have them do. If you find the right house, the buyer buys the house. I have said for many, many years, yes, it takes skill to sell a house to a buyer, but it takes real sales skill to list property with a seller. You open the door, they walk in, they fall in love with the house. Show me the skill you've demonstrated besides opening the door. However, to get a listing requires sales skills. Why? Because there's very little competition in working with a buyer, and there's really good competition in working with the seller. Therefore, the skills you have will become deeply ingrained within you, which they always do. All right, now think about this. You may have ridden a bicycle as a child. Did you really ever forget how to ride a bike? I don't think so. Okay, you learned how to use a fork as a child to eat. Did you really forget how to use a fork? Did you suddenly start grabbing your pasta and slapping yourself on the mouth? No, okay? But maybe you haven't had any pasta in a month. You still remember how to eat it, okay? There's certain things that once you learn them last a lifetime, okay? You probably know the alphabet, learned it as a child. You may not be repeating it often, but I'll bet if we said to you, can you repeat the alphabet, you could do it. That skill lasts a lifetime. The third advantage, you're going to develop a lot more repeat and referral business from your database. You become a great listing agent, you're going to get repeat and referral business as long as, listen carefully, you're doing your job, showing up, calling, talking, visiting, sending important things to your database. And the fourth advantage, and probably the most important, you're going to provide a better experience for your clients, which will, of course, bring you a lot more business. Guys and gals, the hardest part of listing property is providing a great, productive experience for the seller, meaning they're not concerned, they're not confused, they're not emotional, they're not stressed out. They know what is going to happen from the day they sign the contract with you. That's a wonderful experience to provide that you can't provide unless you know how to list property. So we'll start this 3-part series with the fact that if you really become good, people are going to complain about you, people are going to criticize you, people are going to condemn you. I know. It's been that way for 42 years now in my business. But I'm here, and I know you can be here too, and you can be as successful as you want once you understand the basic advantages of that commitment you have to make to changing some of your behaviors to become a great listing agent. We'll go to part 2 next week, which I think you'll enjoy. Thank you for being with us on part 1.